Okay folks, welcome to another video from Gundog and Fly. Tá míle fáilte roimh, tá súlagam go bhfuil sibh go maith agus I mar versláinte. And today I'm going to show you how I tie my favourite pike fly. Now, I don't have a whole lot of experience of pike flies, but what I do know is this fly here, which I have used almost exclusively since I started pike fishing, has been a tremendous success. And what I'm going to do now is just give you a closer look at it, and then I'll tell you and show you how I tie it. So now this is the fly I'm referring to. I'll just throw the measuring tape on it there and you can see the length of it in total. It's almost exactly 6 inches. So for me that's a huge fly. I'm used to fishing size 18s and size 20s dry flies, so to move to this kind of a fly was a huge jump for me. But what I can say about this, given that I don't have huge experience with pike flies, and having tried a few different ones of my own sort of design, if you like, I just tied them up from just ideas in my head, this fly here has been massively successful for me. Given that I'm a relative newcomer to pike fly fishing, I've caught numerous fish on this particular fly, including some very large double figure fish. Anyone who's been watching my videos of late will be aware and have seen this fly in action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I tied it, and there's quite a bit of tying in it. It's not a difficult fly to tie, but it takes quite some time. So I'll get to it, and be sure to stay with me. Okay, first part of the fly, we're going to make one of these, okay? I've been making these this morning already, and I've made a couple of dozen of them, because these flies are going to be in big demand, I have no doubt, because it's a really successful fly on pike. So I'm expecting to be tying quite a few. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to make these. Right. What I have here is a strimmer line. Basically it's used for gardening, for strimming grass. I'm going to cut off a piece of it. It's basically heavy duty nylon. I'm going to cut off a piece here about 3 inches long. I'm quite sure you could use the equivalent in either nylon or fluorocarbon, whatever. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the end of it until it creates a little ball on the end, or a little stop as I like to call it. There's a point at which you heat it and then you stop. You'll hear it start to sizzle. Obviously you won't be able to hear it on the video, but I can hear it here and I know when to stop. Just as you start to hear the sizzling sound, just stop, and then your little stop is created here on the end. Next thing, this is Kevlar thread. Comes out under various names, GSP, but basically it's Kevlar thread. It's really strong, and it needs to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap around just in front of that stop. And now just a quick knot just to keep everything in place. Half hitch will do fine. I'll just tie the whip knot. And now I'll just leave this to one side and we'll get to the next part. So the next part is white bucktail, and we want a nice long, the longest piece you can find on your bucktail. And as you can see, I'm cutting out a piece here. I don't know, it's 2.5 inches long maybe. I'll just leave it down there for momentarily. Next thing, a bit of flash. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of flash to the tail. This is sort of an ice blue flash. Doesn't necessarily have to be ice blue, but just it's good to put in a little bit of flash just into mix it with the bucktail. So I'm going to drop that there on top of the bucktail and mix them together. Now I'm going to cut that square in the end, and now I'll get my strimmer wire, and the little part with the stop on the end you push into the middle of the your mixture, and then tie it down. And I'm starting off relatively loose, and each turn will consecutively go in that direction and get gradually tighter. Now I'm starting to really tighten down and pulling on the thread and really putting pressure to really tie it down. Okay, you can see we've got our little fly component almost complete. All I have to do now is just put a couple of small knots on it just to keep everything in place. I'm going to do a little half hitch over the top and another. Yeah, that knot will hold it in place. Just cut your thread off. And now you see why the stop is on the end of it. It can't come off basically, because pike by their very nature give flies a hard time, and they need to be very secured. So just the tiniest drop of super glue, and that will secure it and make sure that it holds together. So there you go, that's the first component of the fly, and now I'm going to show you how I employ it in total. Okay, now the hooks I've been using to tie these are these here. They're Aberdeen's size 2.0, and they're barbed hooks. But what I've been doing in recent times, I've noticed that barbed hooks can be a little bit severe maybe on the pike, so I think the pike are deserving of the same respect as I give the trout, so I've been debarbing the pike fly hooks. Now we're going to tie this in here, but before we do that, I'm just going to take my little snips and just give it a few, I'm not cutting it, I'm just putting a few indentations in it so that the thread will get a good grip. So now it's overhanging it by about, I suppose, 3/4 to an inch. Okay, so I'm going to tie that down. So I'm going back along, and I'm pulling on the thread. I'm really hauling on it now. When I reach those grooves, it gets in there and gets a really good grip. I'm hauling on it again there now. Now you'll notice there's a slight curvature, and I think maybe that's part of the reason why the fly really elicits such an aggressive take from the pike, because as you put it through the water, when you pull it, it's forced down like this by the water, and then as you we call it, if you relax your fly line, it will lift. So you kind of got this undulation going on at the back like this, depending on how you use the line. But you've got this back up and down movement because of this little bit of curvature here, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's probably a trigger for the pike. So now that's tied in really securely. Now you can, if you like, at this point put glue on it, but if you tie it down tight enough, it's not really necessary. Okay, now more bucktail, white again. So I'm cutting out another piece roughly the same length as this. And now I'm going to bring that here. This is going to cover this stuff here, and it's going to go back roughly halfway onto this part here. So when I'm there, I just put a couple of turns over, 2 or 3, and then just push down on it and move it so that it encircles the hook shank. Here we are. And now relatively loose turns, and then like I did in the beginning with the rest of it, I'm going to start tightening down now so that it gets a really good grip. Now, there we are. And it's coming together nicely. Okay. Another clump of deer here. Now what I'm going to do here is, when I cut out a big clump, I'm just going to comb the end of it here and take out any little short bits. And this time it's going to be tied this way around. Again, a couple of turns around. loose, and then just move it around the hook shank so it's all the way around, and now tighten down. And what I've been using for, let's get a hold of one here now. There we are. What I'm doing, I use this thread bobbin, just give this a bit of force back the way like that. Now you can give forever trying to create a thread dam that will force the bucktail back in a slope, but I kind of circumvent that by just using a little super glue. I just put a little bit all around whilst holding it in place. Just give it a few seconds. Now, I've done another 3 or 4 of the last move essentially. So now I'm up here near the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the remaining part of the fly, okay? And basically what I'm going to put into it is just a little bit of orange Antron. That's all it is basically. And I'm going to tie that in there so that it's underneath. Okay, so just tie that into place there. And now I have here a pink bucktail. I'm just going to take a little bit of that, just a very small bit, and all it's doing is just adding a little bit of colour. So I'm going to try and level up the ends of this best I can. And just tie that in, just add a tiny splash of colour. There, put this part off. Now we continue with the white. Probably a couple of more times. So I'm going to put on a thick clump here now to try and shorten the journey. So I did say it takes a bit of time to tie these flies. They take a lot longer than what I'm used to tying trout flies, so yeah. Again, I'm just going to rotate that around the hook shank. Tighten down. Now it's starting to take a bit of shape. I can actually feel it under my hands. And again the glue. Little dab here and all around. Seconds to dry. Yes, there we are. Now it's held in place. Okay. One more. Okay. Now, as I cut this piece out, there's a little bit of that sort of brown colour in it. That's not going to do any harm. And again, try and rotate it around the hook. Tighten down really tight. Now again the glue. So this is the final one, and then I'll be adding the eyes. Now, are the eyes necessary? Probably not, but they make the fly look good to us. Whether the pike actually notices or not, I don't know, that's open to speculation, I'd say. But they may well be a trigger, who knows. Now, I don't want to spill super glue all over the place. So now I'm just going to tie a whip finish here. And another one, just for the safety's sake. And now I'm going to add the eyes. Right, to do that, what I need to do is kind of squeeze the head so that it kind of flattens a little bit at each side, if you like. So I ran out of space on that SD card while I was putting on the eyes and didn't notice, so you just have to trust me. The eyes are simple matter. I'll show you what they are. They come in a pack like that. You can get them online from various places. They're just little rubbery eyes, and I've chosen green for this boy. And all you do is you stick one on either side with super glue, and then what I do is I just cover the eyes with a little of hard as nails from Helly Hansen's, just making sure that it gets in behind the eye and sticks to the bucktail. And you can rub a little bit on the head here and sort of make a head, if you like, and that holds them secure. The eyes can get eaten off, but it's no big deal. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the fly outside when it's dried, and I'm going to wet it, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's wet, and I think at that point you'll probably be convinced that it looks relatively lifelike. Now, run it under the water and you'll see it, the kind of shape that it takes when it gets wet. So there you go. Broad at the front, and then it gradually tapers, and of course this part undulates up and down, as I explained earlier, when the water pressure hits it. So it's absolutely a brilliant pike fly. I suppose they're the best judge of what's good and what's not, and they have certainly decided that this fly meets with their approval. So suggest a name, please. So that's it, folks. That's my pike fly. That still needs a name, so go for it. I hope you enjoyed the video anyway. It might have been a bit long-winded because of necessity these flies take a little bit of extra time, but I expect this fly to be one of my big successes in terms of the amount of people that will be looking for them when they see how effective it actually is. And I suppose it's more by luck than judgment that I kind of hit upon a good formula from the off. The pikes certainly love it. So thanks again for joining me, and be sure to like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And if you really want to support the channel, there's a link in the description to my Patreon page, where any little bit of support would be much appreciated. So, Sinna Bhfuil Umsa, enough, that's it for me today, and I'll see you again next time, either on Galling, Slán go fóill.